This week, Prime Minister Mark Carney announced former Supreme Court Justice Louise Arbour would become Canada's 31st Governor-General when the 5-year term of Mary Simon, the current vice-regal representative, expires in July. Simon has the distinction of being the country's first Indigenous Governor-General, following a lifetime spent advocating for Inuit and Northern issues. And there, watching from his front row seat, was her husband, the vice-regal Consort of Canada. Now he's sharing some of those invaluable insights in a new book. Here to talk about From Ragged Ass Road to Rideau Hall, Stories of Canada, is His Excellency Whit Fraser. Welcome.
And that's the last time we're going to use Excellency on the program, John.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Just the one time. Let's talk about let's not talk about your title. But let's talk about the title of the book. Until now, I thought Ragged Ass Road was the name of a Tom Cochrane album, but it's so much more than that, of course. Why did you choose to start the book there?
Well, because I could. I lived in Yellowknife for many years. I was actually in Yellowknife when the little road got its name officially. As a reporter working out of Yellowknife in the Northwest Territories, I would have used Ragged Ass Road many, many times to try and capture some of the color and character of Yellowknife. And so that's kind of where I started, literally and figuratively.
Now, this isn't a linear biography, but as the subtitle suggests, a collection of stories about Canada, 19 of them, I believe. Tell me what inspired you to write about Canada now. Did this start out as an elbows up project, if you will?
Half and half. On the very 1st of January 2021, I got to be clear on the date, we were holed up literally in Nova Scotia, in a little COVID-free cove. There was we stayed over the winter because there was so much COVID in Ontario, in Ottawa, where we were living. So we stayed at our cottage, and I went for a walk up along the Northumberland coast. And I have felt Arctic winds before, but none colder than that January day in Nova Scotia. And the wind drove the yellow dog and I inland, and there on a sign shaking in the wind 6,000 kilometers from home is a stolen road sign, Ragged Ass Road, with the city of Yellowknife crest. And the dog and I both laughed. And when I got home, I began writing a memoir that I'd been thinking about for a long time. And about 6 months later, after the phone began ringing and Mary began being, quote, vetted, suddenly the book and the journey took a detour. And that's where the second part of the title came in, From Ragged Ass Road to Rideau Hall. And it's a mixture, as you know, of before and after.
Now, you spent many years with the CBC as a reporter. Of course, some may remember you as one of the original on-air personalities of what was then known as CBC News World. You don't spend too much time on this in the book, but I wanted to know, what was it like launching that service that is still around today?
It was fantastic. I mean, it was next to marrying well and coming here. It was a great highlight of my life. And, and we had everybody's energy was up. We were doing something brand new, and we were changing broadcasting in Canada. And somebody sent me a little while ago, sent me a 40-second clip from YouTube of Carol Adams and I on the opening night. And I remembered so clearly that we were doing the opening, and under the desk, one of the technicians was still wiring up the headset and the communications with the control room. So that's how close it was to getting on air, and that's the kind of thing that gave us incredible adrenaline, So it was great fun.
Do you remember any resistance to it at the time? In the book, you certainly outlined some of the doubts that you had.
Oh, there was resistance from broadcasters that the CBC executives eventually sorted out, and I understood them. Like Global, Can West and Global said it wasn't going to be told that it had to charge customers an extra 35 or 50 cents a month to pay for somebody else's service. And a man that I'd met and had great respect for, Jim Shaw. He had his principles and the CBC had their objectives. Ultimately, I think they worked them out. But our focus had everything to do with not having dead air and moving from story to story and trying to do this thing on a shoestring. And the real credit goes, I was the face, but was a colleague named Joan Donaldson who had the vision to do News World and carried it all the way through. And sadly, not long after we went on the air, Joan was struck by a bicycle in Montreal and went into a coma that she never fully recovered from. And ultimately, in a few years, it did claim her life. But she was the founder, and I'm glad to say that Carleton University, where I'm going to be doing a presentation tonight, has a Joan Donaldson Award that they give out every year. So we're going to kind of come full circle on that.
And what made you leave the corporation ultimately?
Well, I had a good run, and Mary and I were just getting together, and she was living in Montreal, and I was living in Calgary, and we decided we're going to be together full time. So I left, and I worried about it at the time, but a job soon appeared as chairman of an agency called the Canadian Polar Commission, and after that, executive director of the National Inuit Organization, working with an Inuk named Josie Kusagak, who became always a great friend. And John, it was consistent with my whole life, that was made up of just good luck, good timing, some far-flung assignments, taking opportunities as they opened up, and above all, marrying well. And so I'm hoping that's what I capture in here.
I think you do very well. Now, the heart of the book, of course, is your relationship with Mary Simon, your former CBC colleague, now the Governor General. What did you learn about the role of Governor General, seeing it so up close as you have?
To the extent that many want to think it's ceremonial, and they were talking about that this morning, again, the ceremonial role of shaking hands and giving out medals. But it's far, far more than that. There can be any Governor General needs to be constantly aware of what's happening in the country, always prepared to step into a constitutional crisis, to adjudicate that, to be in places where you can be helpful to the country. And in the last week she was in, and I observed, and she was in Tumbler Ridge on the second trip. And a Governor General in situations like that can make a huge difference. When victims can cry on the shoulder of the Governor General and tell their story, it's an incredible thing to see. And so the role is very wide, and it is the constitutional head of state for the country, but it's much, much more than ceremonial, although that's a big part about it. And again, if you can make the country feel good and Canadians feel good about themselves, that's quite an accomplishment at the same time.
You mentioned Tumbler Ridge, and I'm glad you did, because I wanted to know, how important is it for the Governor General to be present at these moments of national tragedy?
It's very important, and I don't want to always speak for her, but there's so much to do, she can't speak for herself in all cases. But it's not one of these things where the office comes with a long list of things that pick and choose and what you're going to do and all of the requests that made on your time. It's one of the requests that go the other way, that come from and I'll marry, that says to the office, we need to go back and do this. And that's the difference. Something that in her heart and soul and instinct says, this is what a governor general ought to be doing, and I need to be doing it.
Speaking for yourself as a former journalist, what was it like going up there those 2 times? What were your takeaways from those visits to Tumbler Ridge?
In this book, I cover a lot of tragedy. I cover the Ocean Ranger, 84 people died. I cover an air crash in Gander that took 256 people, an Air Canada crash. I covered a lot of tragedy as a reporter, but I wasn't covering this. This was up close, and I could see and feel the pain personally, that far more than I ever would have had as a reporter. We didn't talk to, and perhaps we should have tried to do more, but we never talked to the people affected the way that Mary did in Tumbler Ridge as reporters. So it was deeply personal rather than tragedies as a reporter professional.
As a reporter, I guess we have to turn that part of us off in order to do the job. But I guess in an official capacity as the consort, you didn't have that luxury.
I didn't. It was absolutely different, and it's hard to express. But we weren't a step back or a mile back. It was there, and you felt the pain, and also the most difficult part is the helplessness. That people have their pain, and there's nothing you can say or do that's going to change any of that, except just to be there. So I was extremely proud of her, and this was all of us here.
I want to pivot a little bit because as of starting today and until Mary Simon leaves office, there'll be lots of articles and pieces looking at her time, her 5 years in Rideau Hall, and then reviewing some of the criticism about her proficiency or lack of proficiency in French, even though she speaks English and Inuktitut. How do you respond to that criticism?
Well, I responded to it in the book. I responded in the book, I think, forcefully. The people who did and will continue to criticize Mary's lack of French give no credit at all to any courage it may take to begin the job, knowing what's in front of you and the expectations to speak to national audiences even before you've had the first French lesson. But let's also be clear and put it in perspective. That I would venture that over 2/3 of the complaints that came and went to the language commissioner and the harsh comments that came from people about her lack of French came from separatists in Quebec that don't want to be part of Canada in the first place. And so I set that aside and then try and imagine and think and understand the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people from all over the country, including from other parts, including from Quebec, who we have met, including French Canadians, who were extremely supportive. Some of the strongest support that she got came from Quebec, where she was born.
Now, I think you get into this a little bit in the book, but I believe the Governor General, Governor General Simon, is something of a transitional figure in that she took over the office at a very tough time. Her predecessor left before serving her full term, so it was kind of up to her as almost a safe choice to restore the dignity of the office, or at least the stability, the perception of stability in the office. Is that a fair characterization?
That's a fair characterization, but it's not one that I'm going to elaborate on. Uh, and yeah, but it is a fair characterization, yes. And there'll always be challenges for every governor general in running this place called Rideau Hall. There's a lot of other things happening, so let's let the sleeping dogs lie.
Very
But it
well.
was never her focus. So she moved on from uh, uh, Madame Payette.
Here's a less controversial question then, the one that won't get you in trouble. How would you like your time, yours and the Governor General's time at Rideau Hall to be remembered?
I think I'm taking some time because I want to be brief. We tried to connect with people. Mary especially tried to connect with people, uh, and it was easy for me to follow. That's what I had learned to do a long time ago as a reporter, is to be able to connect with people. But she tried very hard to connect with Canadians at every level in every part of the country, and I know she did that. Uh, and uh, I know that will be very part of her legacy. But beyond that, she will continue to do work on issues that are important to her, uh, including mental health and the lack of services and preparation for mental health facilities all across the country, especially in the north, but in smaller towns all across the country. So that is something that she'll continue to work on.
Any advice you could offer the next Governor General, giving your unique perspective on the role?
Well, the next Governor General has incredible credentials and wisdom, and I wouldn't offer advice, but I just expect that she will continue to follow her own head and heart and intellect and do a great job for Canada.
At the end of the book, you say it is not whether life is long or short, but rather that it can be wonderfully wide, so beautifully connected. What do you hope the reader takes away from your book?
A better sense of the country, a full sense of the country, that we get through we do get through our hard times and our tragedies. And it was difficult in writing to make sure to try and find areas to lighten it and to show the character of our country and ourselves. And, there's the beautiful families that I've met in Yukon that I was so pleased to be able to write about. And, great adventures of being on a giant lake in the Northwest Territories with a dear friend hunting caribou and being surrounded by 500,000 animals and a whole herd in migration, and just being the full sense of the country. So, and to focus on the country. That's, we got a good thing going here, and so a little bit of patriotism, waving the flag.
The fine place to leave it. The name of the book is From Ragged Ass Road to Rideau Hall, Stories of Canada. It is published by Douglas and McIntyre. My thanks to author Whit Fraser.
Thanks very much, John.